Hello and welcome to my very first free online time-lapse workshop. This one is all about the basics of time-lapse photography. You will learn how to plan, shoot, and edit high-quality time-lapse sequences for free using free software and the equipment that you have in your house. This one is sponsored by Enlaps, who of course create wonderful time-lapse cameras such like the Tikee Mini and the Tikee 4. This one's brand new. They feature in a sponsored episode or a sponsored chapter of this free workshop, and you get a discount code for their store. You also get a discount code for my store for my ultimate time-lapse course. If you want to keep learning but you don't want to pay, I have some free ebooks available for you down below this video as well. And if you have any questions about time-lapse photography, please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy my workshop about how to time-lapse for free. Adios. This is a new model workshop. Normally I do a masterclass with Enlaps, but I figured let's change it up. So I'm going to be doing a normal basics of time-lapse workshop sponsored by Enlaps. So one of the chapters in today's hour is sponsored by Enlaps, which is fun. And because of that, I can offer a nice discount code. If you're buying any Enlaps equipment, which I will talk about later, you can get a €50 discount with code metros-enlaps, and I've increased my own discount for my ultimate time-lapse course to $100. So you use Enlaps 100 at checkout and you get $100 off my ultimate time-lapse course. What are we learning today? A lot. Obviously, this workshop is called Time-Lapse Workshop, or the basics of time-lapse. But first, I'm going to waffle a little bit about me so you know who I am. But Thomas, you already know who I am. And it's still just you and me right now because everyone else is running late. A little bit about me, a little bit about planning, a little bit about shooting, or actually quite a bit about shooting, a small amount about editing as well. I got to duck out of the way for this text. And then it's Enlaps time. Look at that. We got a new camera that launched last month, I believe. Got some exciting things in the pipeline, and I can't wait to show you all that. So introduction, this is me. How does this work? Where do I point? That's me over there in Australia, Southern Hemisphere, where the sky indeed turns the other way around, which is very fun. And people online know me mostly as Matthews or Matt Joes, which is nothing to do with my name. It is just a nickname that my great grandmother used to give me as a wee baby. So that's where Matthews comes from. Who am I and what do I do? Well, do a couple things like most creatives or creators these days. Wear multiple hats. The first hat being a time-lapse and a hyperlapse photographer. Lately, mostly hyperlapse photography. I'd say the 90% of my bookings have been hyperlapse photography, but I still do time-lapse photography as well. The difference being time-lapse is mostly static and hyperlapse is mostly big moving time-lapses. I get hired by agencies or events or production companies to do that for brands or events or you name it. Quite a few things. I've done weddings, I've done festivals, I've done some construction stuff, I've done some brand things, quite a diverse range of capturing time and manipulating time. Then because I started sharing all of that on the internet, quite early days, in the early days of social media, I got a bit of a following from that. I think that was mostly just right place, right time. Not many other people were sharing their behind the scenes and the end results. So I gained a bit of a following, and from that you have value for brands, so you can promote stuff to your audience. So that's social media content creation, falls into that category. Then last year or early this year, I forget when exactly, I founded MVDP Studios, which is where we'll be expanding our range of operations from more than just time-lapse and hyperlapse, offering strategy on top of what we do, for example, for social media, but also providing stills photography, events, videography, etc. A more all-around package to be offered to potential clients in the brands and events space. And then every now and then I do a workshop, mostly with Enlaps lately. I do IRL workshops as well. That's coming up later in the year. But those are the main 4 pillars, I guess, of what keeps me busy. And online, you can learn from me using or with the ultimate time-lapse course. I'm going to change this code here because that's the outdated code. Enlaps 100 gets you a nice discount. It's actually got 95 plus lessons. It'll be over 100 soon, over 6 hours of condensed good content, and yeah, access to a private membership area where you can ask questions, etc. So the ultimate time-lapse course, pretty good. Pretty much everything I know about time-lapse is in that. Anyways, time-lapse shooting methods. 5 minutes for the introduction. That's pretty all right. This is actually not me in this photo. It's a photo I took of my friend Sam when we were shooting a beautiful sunset in Sydney, Australia, of course, where I lived for 6 years, hence the slight Aussie accent. How do you shoot a time lapse? Most people I meet tend to think that a time lapse is a video that you sped up. So you put a camera down and you record video and then you speed it up afterwards. You can do that, but it has obviously, very big downsides, such as, let's go back to that actually, such as it's terrible for your battery because you're recording constantly, but you're only going to use a small amount of the frame. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're storing all that footage as well, all the data. So it's bad for your storage capacity for your memory cards that fill up really quickly. You generally don't have as much dynamic range. You generally don't have as much resolution and a bunch more reasons. So definitely not the best way to do it, but a way that you can do it. Second method, slightly better, shooting stills, shooting photos, and then creating a video file from those stills. What's the benefit there? The opposite of everything I just said as a con in the first method. So better for your battery life, better for your storage, better dynamic range, more resolution. Everything's just a little bit more economical. Some cameras have built-in camera functions with no post-processing. For example, phones these days. The iPhone system or the iOS system records video frames, and as it's recording, the longer you record, the more frames it deletes. So you always end up with a video between 8 to 10 seconds long, depending on your shooting length. I wrote an article about that. It's quite interesting how he does that. And it's pretty smooth. Oh my God, this is the same like last time. I feel like a sneeze coming up. And then I had to sneeze while we were streaming. And then it didn't actually eventuate. And I feel like that's the same thing now. Please sneeze, come on. So there we go. Thank you very much for that. A Holy Grail shooting needs extra gear, time, and work. What is Holy Grail shooting? It's a style of time lapse. It is a sunset or a sunrise time lapse where the light changes, the amount of available light. Why is it called the Holy Grail? Because that used to be the most challenging shot that you can do in time lapse photography. To shoot from nighttime into daytime and having to adjust your exposure as you go along takes a bit of knowledge, a bit of experience, and a bit of skill and a bit of patience, and then a lot more post-processing. However, certain cameras, like what I'm recording on the side here, because I'm running on multiple systems, they do it flawlessly in camera. I think Sony is doing it really well these days. Lumix is doing it really well. Nikon is doing it really well as well. Canon has a little bit of work to do. It's gotten a lot better with their R series mirrorless cameras, but it's still not there yet, I believe. Now, what is the best method? What is the method that the majority of all professionals globally employ to create time lapses? That is shooting stills and creating a video from the stills. So how do you do that? How do you shoot those stills, right? How do you shoot a time lapse? What do you need? What gear do you need? Well, firstly, you need a camera. Could be this as well. You can shoot raw time lapses on phones. But yeah, you're going to find it very difficult to capture images without a camera. So yeah, get one of those, I would say. Now, it doesn't have to be the latest and greatest. I've done, I did paid time-lapse, hyperlapse work with a 600D, and my backup was a 450D Canon at the time. This was 12 years ago or 13 years ago almost. No, 12 years ago. I started shooting 13 years ago, something. Anyways, doesn't matter. It's not necessarily about the camera. It's about the vision of the creator behind the camera. You also need a lens for that camera, or obviously, again, certain devices like GoPros or Insta360 cameras or phones, etc. They have all that built in. Same with an intervalometer, which is either a bit of software or a bit of hardware. The purpose of an intervalometer is to trigger a photo consistently every couple of seconds over a longer series of photos or over a longer period of time. So this can be a remote, a hardware remote that you plug into the camera, or it can be a menu function inside of your camera software. You also need a battery to charge the whole thing and a memory card to store all your data on. I used to say, don't get too big of a memory card, because say you're shooting a whole day on a SD card, for example, and then at the end of the day, that SD card corrupts, you're going to be crying. And this actually happened to me. The first time I borrowed a mate's, what camera was it? I think it was a Canon at the time, and he had a 512 gigabyte card. It was very expensive at the time. Spent a whole day shooting Ultra Music Miami, and in the evening the card corrupts for some reason, and I spent all night without sleep trying to recover the files from it, and it was just terrible. And I wish I had 2 or 3 smaller cards instead, and so the loss would have been compartmentalized a little bit better. These days, I generally shoot on 128 or 256 gigabyte cards, the Lexar Gold ones. You also need a little tripod or a clamp or a camera mount, pretty much something to solidly place your camera in a scene so that it doesn't move, so that your footage isn't blurry, so that your imagery doesn't shake, because that's just annoying. And you need a subject matter to shoot. Now, a lot of beginners shoot in their backyard, which is great, but just leave the backyard, go into town, go into the city you live in, or the nearest overpass or whatever, and just leave the backyard, unless you got really nice clouds in your backyard. But generally, I find that beginners should put themselves out into the world and go and shoot some more impressive stuff than just the tree in the backyard. Granted, that's how I began. My first hyperlapses were of trees in my backyard, but that was a long time ago. How to prepare a shoot? The more prep you do, the less issues you can run into, right, while you shoot. So preparation is a good idea to spend some time and energy on. Now, what does that entail? That entails also having a vision or a goal or a sort of a storyboard in mind, so that you're not just shooting random shots. Try and maybe there's a video you've seen that you really liked. Take screenshots of that video as a mood board and figure out, like, what do I like about this video and what do I like about these shots. That's an ultra wide shot. That's a shot that's looking down. That's a shot that's looking up. That's with a long lens, whatever. Write that down as a shot list so that you can set out with a shot list or a storyline, set out with a vision or a goal when you're going on your first time-lapse mission. Because in post-production, when you're going to put together your little edit for Instagram or TikTok or whatever social media platform that you're making stuff for, you're going to want to have diversity in your shots. You want to have a contrast from wide to tight, from high to low, etc. It's all about contrast, positives and negatives in everything. You know, cyclical nature of life, pretty much. We're getting a little bit too philosophical now. So on to the next slide. Researching your locations. One of my favorite things to do before going to a new spot is using Google Maps or Google Earth and Street View, as well as photo pills, to figure out where the sun's going to be, where the light's going to be, what to look out for, trying to visualize the shots, be it static time lapses or hyperlapses, using Google Maps. I do that all the time to prepare my shoots. And it's relaxing, you know. You can do it while you have your coffee in the morning, for example, the day before, or ideally the week before you go for a shoot. And then you know, very valid thing, how do you prepare? Charge, format, and clean. So charge your batteries, clean your lenses, your sensors, your everything, your equipment, and format your memory card so that you're not on location and you're like, oh, I only have 100 photos left in this sequence or on this memory card, but oh, can I actually format this memory card? And you don't know, and that's not a spot you want to be in. So make sure to do all that beforehand, then pack your bag in a sensible way and head out. And that's how to prepare a time-lapse shoot. How good. 20 minutes in, pretty all right. Basic shoot theory. I feel like I should rename this chapter because I don't know about that. Anyways, find your spot and inspect your surroundings. You've done your prepping, you've done your location scouting beforehand. You're now at the site where you're going to be shooting. Don't just get out of your car and plonk your camera down. get out of your car or get off the bus or get off the train or whatever. Just arrive on site and do a little meander, do a little walk around, because there's always a better spot than the very first spot you see, or that's generally the trend. One time I had special access to a rooftop for a building that was about to be demolished, and the sunrise was happening, and I rushed and I set up a shot, and I start shooting and I'm committed, and the shot's 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, and I decide once I'm all cooled down, I'm gonna just go for a walk around, and literally around the corner was a shot that was so much better than the shot that I had set up. But at that time, I couldn't stop my shot and restart because the sun had begun to rise. So that could have been prevented by a 1 minute exploration of the area that I was in. So find your spot, inspect the surroundings for potentially a better angle, but also inspect it for what can happen. Are you near water and is the tide going to rise? Or are you on a boardwalk that is sturdy now, but will people start walking on that boardwalk once it gets a little bit later, or people get off work, or people wake up and go for a run? Is that going to vibrate your shot while you're shooting? Is there going to be more traffic around? Is there going to be street lights turning on or off depending on where you are? What if wind comes in? Just fast forward, project yourself into the future a little bit to make sure that your shot is safe and secure for the next little while. And speaking of safe and secure, make sure it's sturdy. We talked about mounts earlier, and make sure that your bag is accessible as well. You see a lot of landscape photographers use their camera bag and a hook on their tripod to weigh it down so that it doesn't move as much, or it's sturdier. However, say you're shooting and your memory card's full, or your shot is going for longer than you anticipated, and then your memory card's full, or your battery starts dying, and you need to grab a memory card or a battery out of your bag, but your bag is attached to your camera that you don't want to shake. I'm not a big fan of that. Also, it will move and sway in the wind, etc. So I generally don't recommend putting your bag on your tripod. If you're working with a zoom lens and you've checked all your surroundings and your shot is almost ready to go, you're framing up your composition. If you have a zoom lens, frame it up and zoom out just a little bit. This will give you a little bit more space in post-production if you need to stabilize. If you're very tightly angled, or if you're very, what do you call it? If your composition, the framing of your shot is very tight on the edge of a building, for example, and you're going to have to stabilize, you're going to lose some of the detail in the shot. So zoom out just a little bit, and also make sure to shoot raw photographs. It is the basics of time-lapse. It is for beginners here. So let's explain. Generally, cameras tend to shoot JPEGs. Joint Picture Expert Group. What is the JPEG definition? I used to know it. I feel like I've forgotten it. Joint photography experience. I don't know, it doesn't matter. JPEGs are highly compressed images. Raw files are raw files. Clip that. Raw files are a collection of data that comes from the sensor that is not yet a photo. Algorithms have to treat raw files to turn it into a photo. So say on average, a raw file is like 35 megabytes. A JPEG could be 6 megabytes. That's because an algorithm, a software, and a data or an image processor has turned that raw stream of data into something that you can view easily. The benefit of the JPEG is that it's smaller file size and faster to write away on the card, etc. The benefit of the raw file is that you can adjust your exposure quite a lot in post-production because it has all the raw data from the moment. You can adjust your white balance, you can denoise stuff much better, you can do so much with that image that you cannot do with a JPEG. So the trade-off is quality and latitude in post-production versus file size and convenience. How fast should you be taking photos? This is a general guideline, pretty much like this whole workshop. People, clouds, and sunsets, 1, 3 to 6 seconds. So if it's anything to do with people, like traffic, or people on a footpath, or walking a pedestrian crossing from an elevated point of view, anything with people, go 1 second if your camera can handle it, because not all cameras can shoot at a 1 second interval for extended periods of time. This also depends on your memory cards. That's for people. If you're shooting clouds, cityscapes, landscapes, whatever, on average, aim for 3 seconds. That will give you nice, smooth motion. And if it's anything longer, like a sunset or a sunrise, I tend to shoot with a 6 second interval. Again, this is a rough guideline. How many photos should you take once you start taking photos? 200 minimum tends to be my rule. That will give you 8 seconds of video if you're making videos at 25 frames per second. That makes sense, right? We'll do some calculations later. And I'll explain more about how many photos to take later as well. Once your sequence is done, you've shot your 200 photos, make a new folder so that it's nicely separated. It saves you a little bit of time in post-production. I should remove this line actually out of the basics of time-lapse. That's not too relevant here. Once your shot's running, let it run. Do not interrupt the shot to potentially reframe and shoot something else, because you'll end up with 2 bum shots instead of 1 good shot. Trust me, do not break that rule. So back to the video length and the frames. Video plays at 25 frames per second in PAL countries such as the UK, pretty much all of Europe, Australia, etc. NTSC countries, they play at 30 frames a second. So this calculation would be different. 100 frames, 100 photos divided by 25 frames per second is 4 seconds of footage. 200 is 8 seconds of footage. That all makes sense. An important point here is on your remote or on your intervalometer, don't set a capture limit. Just use a timer to figure out how long you want to be shooting. Because say you're shooting a sky bit with some clouds and you didn't expect all of a sudden the sun to peek through and there's all these amazing rays hitting a city or a building and it's shining off that, and you were only going to shoot a little bit, but it's all happening, and all of a sudden, without you realizing, you are no longer shooting because you set a 200 photo limit on your remote. So just let it run, but keep an eye on how long you're shooting, and you can keep an eye on it using this little matrix or whatever you call it. The number of photos that you take, how long the clip will be based on 25 or 30 FPS, and your recording time. Say you go with a 3-second interval and you're shooting 300 photos, that will be 15 minutes of recording. Does that make sense? Yeah, 3 seconds, 300 photos, that's 900 seconds. That's 900 divided by 60. That is, am I wrong here? Did I mess this up? What's 900 by 60? 15. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing. It does make sense. 15 minutes. 15 minutes recording time. 3 seconds, 300. I was correct. I'm not wrong. I'm never wrong. You can screenshot this or take a photo of it, whatever. How long should your exposure be to get the most cinematic look? Cinematic, it is just a rule that comes from filmmaking where you work with faster shutter speeds. Anything up to like 2-second intervals, go with the interval length divided by 2. That should be your shutter speed. If it's more than that, it doesn't really matter too much. So up to a 1 second long exposure, I find makes sense. So let's have a look here. I'm shooting photos, 1 photo every 2 seconds. I should be using a 1 second exposure. I generally tend to maximally, my maximum length of exposure for me in how I shoot is probably half a second to 1 second. Now, to get that half second or full second, the glass that you put in front of your lens so that less light hits the sensor so that you can have longer exposures. That's the way we do it. And you want to shoot everything on manual. Everything. ISO, white balance, aperture, shutter speed. I think that's about it. Because you are in control of the camera. And also, top tip, turn off image review, because every time you take a photo, the camera shows you the photo and that just wastes battery and it slows the camera down as well. And also, stabilization, turn that off on the lens and on the sensor if you're shooting on a tripod, that is. Because some cameras, not all cameras, will try and look for motion, which in turn induces motion, which is not what we want. Advanced shoot theory is for a different time. We're not going over that. What does this talk about, actually? Yeah, sunrises or sunsets. I need to rework that chapter anyway. So that's the Holy Grail stuff that I was talking about earlier that we're not going to be talking about now. We're half an hour in. We're doing good pace. Well, what are some common mistakes here? Not shooting RAW. I told you to shoot RAW. Please listen to me. You will regret it if you're just shooting JPEGs. Even if you don't know how to shoot stuff or how to edit RAWs right now, in 6 months or in a year, you will know how to shoot RAWs and you will know how to edit RAWs. And then you're going to wish that you could go back to your first time lapse and revisit it to see how your editing style has changed, for example. Not checking or not formatting your cards beforehand. Say you're on location, shit's going down. It's looking epic. The sun shines through the clouds. There's just the most beautiful scenery in front of you, but you have 50 photos left to shoot and you don't know if you have that card backed up or offloaded or not. Do that stuff beforehand, trust me. Don't not shoot everything on manual. Your camera doesn't know it's shooting a time lapse. It thinks it's shooting a photo, and then you're telling it to shoot another photo. If you're fluctuating through exposures and white balances, it's going to look very bad in post-production or when it's turned into a video file. And not locking your aperture on a Canon. There is such a thing called aperture flickering. I don't have an example to show you here. Oh, do I? No, I don't. There's a mechanical aperture in your lens. It's a set of irises. They close and they open for every photo to let through the desired amount of light. This is a mechanical operation that, from our point of view, is extremely accurate. However, there are micro fluctuations in how these blades close specifically. So that could be like 1/10 of a millimeter difference. If you're shooting a portrait of someone in different lighting conditions, you're not going to notice that your f5.6 isn't exactly f5.6. It might be slightly different. That's fine if you're shooting a person. If you're shooting a photo every 2 seconds of a scene with the exact same lighting over an extended period of time, those micro fluctuations will translate into a different amount of light hitting your sensor, which in turn leads to a different brightness per photo, which, if you put that in a video at 25 frames per second, is annoying flickering. It's this jarring, jittery look, and it's one of the most common mistakes you see with beginner time-lapsers, that flickering. So if you're on a Canon, Google aperture flicker Canon solution, and you will likely find a video that I made 10 years ago or whatever, explaining how to lock your aperture on your Canon lens and Canon camera. How to edit a time lapse, because we've gone and done it all. We've prepped, we've visualized, we've shot, we have packed our bag and we're heading home. Now, how do you turn that into a time lapse? Some cameras do that stuff internally, like the camera I'm filming on. The Lumix system allows you to shoot RAWs and JPEGs at the same time, and then you can decide to render a 4K 10-bit video file internally from your memory card, which is boss, and one of the main reasons I shoot Lumix, because it's just so good, but also for hyperlapse photography specifically. Which software to use? There's so many softwares you can use, and I've used all of them over the years. Adobe Lightroom Classic, I should adjust this slide. Adobe Lightroom Classic is good at reading and managing a lot of photos and sequences at the same time. Plus After Effects. You color grade in Lightroom, and then you bring the sequences in After Effects, and you use After Effects to render video files. Rendering means transforming photos into video files in this specific instance. You can use Adobe Photoshop, although that is super glitchy and I don't recommend that. The reason it's in here is because there is an Adobe subscription where you have Lightroom and Photoshop in one bundle for cheap per month. And you can use Adobe Photoshop as a video renderer. There's a timeline. I've made videos about it online as well. What else can you do? You can use Adobe Lightroom and LR Timelapse. This is what I would say the majority of the pros use. Lightroom, again, to color grade and organize everything, your sequences, and then LR Timelapse, where you can deflicker footage and you can render the video files as well. So I often use all three of those: Adobe Lightroom, After Effects, and LR Timelapse, depending on the project. Now, if you're not shooting insanely complicated day to nights and holy grails, and you have a sequence of RAWs and JPEGs, because I will shoot RAW and JPEG at the same time, and you quickly want to pre-visualize what your shot's going to look like, because you can't wait, because you're giddy like a child, because you love time-lapse so much, you can use apps like TLDF or gluemotion. I have gluemotion open here. Yeah, let's have a quick demo. Gluemotion, there's a free one, but there's also a paid. Oh, is this going to open the JPEGs? Oh, it's opening all of them. That doesn't look right. I'll demo another one because I remember I have a specific demo one for this Enlaps demo raw cloud JPEG. Okay, open this. This is gluemotion, a free app, but you can also get the paid one, and it does deflickering, etc. You can crop and zoom in, frame blend. This is going to show you the flickering that it can try to fix with the deflickering here. You can change the speed, whatever many frames a second, and then export, and you can export this as HEVC, whatever. And we're going to choose that destination on the desktop, export the content. Look at that speed. That's the M3 Max for you with its dedicated HEVC processor. And then boom, we have a cool, ooh, that is very jittery in my playback. I hope that's not as jittery in the actual recording. Very cool cloud at night over London from my balcony. So that's gluemotion. I use that for, yeah, I mean, I'm still a hobbyist shooter as well. I shoot as a hobby a lot, and I just like that. There's also TLDF, which is very similar, but ooh, maybe I don't have it anymore. Yeah, I like gluemotion. It's very cheap. It's very easy to use. It's sturdy. It doesn't crash. And yeah, it's just pretty good. There's also Davinci Resolve, which has the studio version, which is paid, but also free version. And I'm going to demo that as well. Actually, I'm going to demo that right now, apparently, according to my workshop thingamajig, whatever you call it. What are we at? 35 past 3 p.m. Very disappointed in the other people for not joining today. They are missing out a fun time. Davinci Resolve, this is the paid version. This is Studio. But I'm quickly going to show you how to do this. So untitled projects at the bottom here. Can you see the bottom? No, you can't because I'm in front of it. At the bottom around here, you go to the first tab. It's the media tab. And you're going to go to, where am I? Enlaps demo. Again, that roll cloud. Drag this in here. I made a tutorial on YouTube about how to do this, and people keep dragging it in the wrong window. No, it's not even that. And they keep getting comments like, when I do it, it doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, because you're doing it wrong. You drag a folder with sequential images. Look how it's titled 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. Drag that folder into this window, and it will treat that as a video file. So this is now a sequence, and it recognizes that as a sequence. Right click on that, create a new timeline using the selected clip because it looks at it as a clip. Adjust your settings to whatever you want. I'm going to go custom, and I'm going to use the frame rate of my choosing. And I know these photos are 6,000 by 4,000 pixels wide. So the sequence that we're making is the size of the clip. So no scaling is done or zooming in. The full resolution as we shot it is this clip now. What can you do now? You can zoom in. You can add, name it. You can add a little color grade. Make it a little bit dramatic. Make it purple and blue. Add whatever else, and then you send that to the deliver tab, and you go ProRes master or H.265 master or any of these masters, and you add that to your render queue, and you give that a destination. Oh, let's try that again. Add a destination, cloud at night, render it. And that's how simple it is to render stuff with Davinci Resolve. Davinci Resolve is really good at adding color grades. Here we have the file. That's well cooked. That's way too saturated and everything, but just shows you how quick that works. Davinci Resolve is really good at managing colors. So pretty crazy that it's free software. So that's the Davinci Resolve methods. I've shown you 2 methods now. That's good. skipped ahead. So let's revisit what we just did. Open software, go to the media window at the very bottom, the media window. Drag your sequence into the media pool, create a new timeline using selected clip, adjust the settings to the photo size, edit as needed, go to the Deliver tab and export your master file. That's it. Now for the sponsored part of the workshop. Let me get some coffee in me. The Enlaps Tikee ecosystem, and this is sponsored or powered by Enlaps, my friends at the French company who have deployed, I don't know how many thousands of cameras all over the world. They have deployed quite a few, and now they have multiple styles of cameras. Actually, I'm going to grab some of them. Here, we have one that looks like that. This is the Tikee 3 Pro Plus. And before I send this one back, we're lucky that I still have it here because I have to send it back for specific reasons. This is the new Tikee Mini, which I find such a fun camera to use. Which camera am I looking at? Single lens, double lens. The field of view on this thing, which has a built-in solar panel, by the way, that you can pivot around to aim at the sun, so it shoots year round. 220-degree field of view on this bad boy, so more than 180 degrees, so really wide. Put it on a balcony and it's going to shoot the balcony itself. This field of view, I forget, I haven't done too many sessions with it yet, but insane battery life in both of them, and you can charge them from an external battery, from a wall socket, or from this thing, which is the same as this, but bigger. So yeah, 4 times the size, a solar panel that charges them up, keeps them juiced. I just rolled over my ankle. That's a lot of pain. Where am I here? What's on the second slide? What is the ecosystem? So the ecosystem is the cameras. Then there's the cloud platform. And with that cloud platform, you store your footage. You upload your footage either automatically via Wi-Fi or 4G. And then it can generate assets from that. But not only that, it can also analyze a construction site and see how many people are wearing helmets or high-vis jackets, where the activity is mostly, etc. It plugs in to Procore, I believe, which is construction software. And it also has a smartphone app that you use to set up the camera for the first time, which is incredibly simple to use. Here you have it, the ecosystem for project monitoring. The project being, you name it. Could be tourism, could be construction, could be anything, both internal and external. We'll do a quick demo as well before we run out of time. So this is the camera I was talking about, 100% solar powered, 4G, LTE, or Wi-Fi connected. At the back here, you have ports. It's IP66 rated. You have a charging port. You have a micro SD port and a micro SIM port. 6K footage because it stitches these two Sony sensors together. And then you get a high resolution. So 6K high-res images, solar powered 2K 2x 16 megapixel sensors, weatherproof, high capacity batteries, you name it. It works well, and this is how wide it is. So you see it is sitting on a balcony or a windowsill, a window ledge. Where am I pointing? And it captures the back of the camera, like looking left. So 220 degrees, pretty darn wide. This system is mostly targeted for outdoor usage because of the stitching. It has a minimum distance in front that needs to be clear, and it needs to be mounted straight on. The minimum distance is 5 meters. So if you're shooting smaller spaces inside, in interiors, not ideal. What is ideal for that is this one. Oops, this one here. Not entirely sure about the angles. 120 degrees field of view. Great for indoor use, slightly better in low light, has an ambient light sensor. They both do video live streams on demand, so you can check in on the cloud platform with the live stream. Versatile power sources, 4K resolution on this bad boy. Let's go over some more settings. It's very compact, as you can see. This is my phone. This is the Tikee Mini. I mean, yeah, I don't know how much else I can show you that. And I've done a couple of shots with it, and it's very fun. You can use them in tandem or complementary. So one is the Tikee Mini, 3 is a 3 Pro Plus, and this one here as well. So if you've got a big construction project, you can deploy, depending on your budget and constraints, other constraints and locations, multiple different styles of cameras. The remote, it's as intuitive as it can be. You connect via Bluetooth, it pairs with it, you load a sequence in 3 different modes: burst, event, or long. They have different parameters available for length of shooting, interval, etc. And then you send that to the camera, you hit start, and then the camera will start on the desired time and shoot until the desired time. You can say shoot only Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. and it'll just do that. Then what happens with the footage? You put it either on the SD card that is internal. This one is up to 512 gigabytes. This one's up to 1 terabyte. You store the footage on there, or you send it to the cloud, to the platform, or you keep it on there and send the JPEGs to the cloud. Now, this is a scalable platform. I'm going to try and quickly demo this for you on my own account. Log in here. And let's see this. So this is the, can we see it? Yes. Oh, it's loading. It's like, where are all my point of views? Got it. There we go. Small amount of stress there, gotta be honest. Actually, all my footage gone. This is a recent, I don't need this introduction. I've been working with you for so long. Got it, whatever. This is shot on the 3 Pro Plus on a cool balcony. And you see on the left here, actually, let's go video. On the left, you can see the Tikee Mini. So you see rain or shine, it works. Smooth transitions as well. Ooh, that wasn't a smooth transition because I'm in the wrong window. But this is fun. You can go to like daytime and transition day to night. You can download all the stitched images. You can go into the I'm in the wrong bit. What am I doing here? Portfolio. Oh, I haven't loaded that in yet. That makes sense. Okay, you can go into the views feed and get a bunch of auto-generated assets. Look at this, a time slice, a circular time slice that it has generated from the view from my balcony automatically. I didn't ask it to do that. There's a thing called a magic lapse, which also shows like different times of year and different times of day. It has the panoramic mode, the before and after I've shown you. Immersive is like kind of like wearing AR or VR goggles like that. Video, it's generated video. I mean, this footage is from it's 1 year condensed into 30 seconds. So that's going to look jittery as heck. Control room allows you to download. It's mostly for if you have multiple cameras. Live stream. Well, I'm not going to be live streaming from this camera now. Yeah, this sequence has 104,000 photos in it. So quite a tricky one, but let's see what you can do. Say I've got this shot and I don't care about the daytime stuff. I only want the nighttime. So I unclick twilight and day, and then it immediately shows me only the nighttime photos, but I only want them from Friday. So I'm going to unselect Monday and everything else. And now I have all the night shots from Friday. And the reason I wanted that is because the moon's in there. So I can now create a video using these 468 photos. And I can use that with the time-lapse builder here. Or I can download the stitched photos and create my own video with it. But the time-lapse builder, I want to show you briefly. You can go full automatic and let it decide on the best settings, or we can go manual and let it generate with that selection. Set your smoothing, enhancements, anti-flickering, stabilization, pan and zoom, relighting, and watermark or current dates. I always like adding the date because then you can see how much time passes in the time lapse. And then you can set 5 seconds, for example, original res and in this codec, and then you hit generate, and then you're going to get a download link really soon, within an hour. Mostly it's after a few minutes of the video that you've requested. And just to show you the oh, do I have that on here? I think I do. Yeah, just to show you the quality, this is footage from the stitched images. So I sent the image pairs online, the cloud stitched them, and then I downloaded the stitched images and made a video file. And I really like, you can see the rain coming in here, and just move through the city and then hit the lenses. You can see it got really rainy. Surprise, surprise, we're in London. And then full night time, the moon rising, and then I like the sunrise stuff because when the light hits these buildings, it's just really, really vibrant. It's looking very smooth on my screen, but I'm looking at the playback and that's not looking smooth at all. So I hope that translates. I will be uploading some of this footage to YouTube soon, but yeah, that's that one. Do I have the Tikee Mini? Yes, this is the shot. Now you can see the angle. This is the shot from the camera here on the left. So the Tikee Mini that shot a different length. I messed up the SD card. So one filled the SD card too quickly and one dropped the battery too quickly because I messed up the settings. But yeah, again, very fun, a different POV, and just very powerful to have this plug and play setup that you know is just going to work rain or shine. The battery life for the Mini can go up to 3 months, I believe, if you shoot a photo every 10 minutes, which is pretty bonkers. And the other one is obviously indefinite because it has a solar panel that works year round to just keep it juiced. So then the limit is only the storage capacity. But yeah, I just love the way the shadows move over the city and stuff. I need to do something with this footage. That's really fun. Where are we in my, oh, we're pretty much done. Please ask me questions. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask me the questions. And I'm going to finish on this sign here, or this, I'll lift that a bit so my face is not in the way. There you go. Time-lapse workshop. Use coupon Metros-Enlaps for a €50 discount, and then Enlaps 100 for a $100 discount on my ultimate time-lapse course. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thomas, if you're still here. Ooh, my phone just went off. Should have put that on quiet, shouldn't I? I do 2 of these a month, but we're going to be changing them up as well. So I might be doing a little hyperlapse workshop. Who knows what's coming up? But yeah, very much appreciate you being here. You can always ask me questions about these things on the internet as well. You know where to find me. I'm Matt Joes, as you can see on screen. Pretty much on any social media platform. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here, mate. Good luck with the editing. And I will hopefully see you in the flesh somewhere soon. And otherwise, I'll be seeing you online. This will also live as an upload, I believe, on my YouTube channel soon, now that I've got it properly recorded on this camera. So, thanks again for tuning in. Adios.